Welcome to my channel, Rise Up with Steve. Please hit like, subscribe, and don't forget to share with your friends. Ladies, listen to me for a moment. If you walked into this space today carrying a heavy heart, replaying conversations in your mind, staring at your phone hoping his name would light up the screen, this is for you. If you've been sitting in that painful quiet, wondering why he hasn't called, why he hasn't checked in, why the man who once felt close now feels distant, I need you to straighten your back and take a deep breath. Because by the time you finish hearing this, you are not going to be the same woman you were when you started. Too many women are walking around believing a man's silence is something they need to fix. You start blaming yourself for the quiet. You tell yourself maybe you said too much. Maybe you didn't say enough. Maybe if you just send one more text, make one more call, explain yourself one more time, things will go back to how they were. And that silence, it starts to feel personal. It starts to feel like rejection. It starts whispering lies into your heart, telling you that you don't matter, that you weren't enough, that if you were truly valuable, he wouldn't be so quiet. But hear me clearly, his silence is not proof of your worthlessness. His silence is not a verdict on your value. That quiet moment you're afraid of, that's not the end of you. That's the beginning of your awakening. Silence has a purpose. Silence is a teacher. And most women never learn the lesson because they're too busy running from it. You've been taught that if you're not speaking, you're losing. You're not explaining, you're failing. If you're not reaching out, you're being immature, cold. But that belief has cost women their peace, their dignity, and their power. Silence does not mean you've given up. It means you're paying attention. It means you're finally listening to yourself. When you stop reaching out, when you stop filling every empty space with your words and your energy, something powerful happens. The noise falls away. The excuses disappear. The sweet talk, the I've been busy, the half-effort apologies, all of it fades. And what's left is the truth. Silence shows you who he really is without you doing the work for him. Because as long as you're the one keeping the connection alive, he never has to show up fully. He gets comfortable. He relaxes into your effort. But the moment you pull back, the moment your voice disappears from his daily routine, the truth rises to the surface. Will he step forward, or was he only present because you were carrying the weight of two people? And while silence teaches you, it teaches him too. As long as you're checking in, reassuring him, making him feel wanted, his ego stays full. He feels secure. He feels important. He feels in control. But the second that attention stops, something inside him shifts. The ground beneath his confidence cracks just a little. Because for the first time, he has to sit with the idea that he might not be the center of your world anymore. Men may not say it out loud, but their ego feeds on being needed. When you stop feeding it, he notices. He may pretend he doesn't care. He may tell himself you'll come back. But late at night, when the phone stays quiet, that confidence starts to shake. He starts replaying conversations. He starts wondering if another man has your attention. He starts feeling what it's like to not be chosen automatically. That's when you'll see the signs. A random message after days of silence. A vague "what's up" text meant to test if you're still there. A social media post designed to get a reaction. That's not love. That's ego searching for reassurance. And your silence exposes the difference. When you stop reaching out, you separate his ego from his heart. If he only wanted the validation, he won't last. But if his feelings are real, the silence will force him to rise, to humble himself, to show up differently. And if he disappears, then the silence just saved you months, maybe years of emotional exhaustion. Here's the truth that's hard to swallow. Men don't respect what they never have to work for. They respect what they might lose. When you're always available, always reaching, always filling the space, you teach him that no matter how inconsistent he is, you'll be there. And once he learns that lesson, he stops trying. But when you step back, when you allow space to exist, the energy changes. At first, he might be irritated. He might think you're being dramatic. But when the silence continues and he realizes you're not playing games, you're just living, respect begins to grow. Distance creates perspective. Absence sharpens awareness. When your presence is no longer guaranteed, it becomes valuable again. That space you create, it's not empty. It's powerful. It shows him that your life doesn't pause without him, that you have a rhythm, a world, a sense of self that exists whether he's present or not. And that realization changes how he sees you. Curiosity comes next. He starts wondering what you're doing, who you're with, why you're so quiet. The woman he thought he had figured out suddenly feels unpredictable. And confusion follows curiosity. He's no longer sure where he stands. And confusion is uncomfortable, but it's also transformative. A comfortable man doesn't grow. A confused man has to choose. That confusion forces him to either step up or step aside. And either way, you win. Because while he's wrestling with his thoughts, you're reclaiming your clarity. You're realizing how much effort you were giving, how much emotional labor you were carrying, how often you were pouring into someone who wasn't pouring back. And then comes the mirror. Without your voice to distract him, without your love to cushion him, he's left alone with himself. And for many men, that's the hardest place to be, because the reflection doesn't lie. It shows him where he fell short. It shows him the imbalance. It shows him what he took for granted. Some men will run from that reflection. They'll blame you. They'll distract themselves. They'll avoid accountability, but others will grow. They'll see the truth and realize that if they don't change, they'll lose a woman who was rare. And while he's facing his reflection, you're facing yours too. You begin to see how much you compromise, how often you chose him over your peace, how you explained behavior that didn't deserve explanation. And in that realization, your power returns. Power doesn't come from arguing. It doesn't come from chasing. It doesn't come from proving your worth to someone who refuses to see it. Power comes from choice, and silence gives you that choice back. When you start reaching out, you take control of your energy, you decide where it goes, you stop handing your worth to someone who treats it casually. And that shift is magnetic, not because it manipulates him, but because it aligns you with yourself. Taking your power back isn't about punishing him. It's about choosing you. It's about saying without words, I will not abandon myself to keep someone else comfortable. Your silence becomes healing. It becomes grounding. It becomes the space where you remember who you were before you started shrinking to fit someone else's uncertainty. So let him wonder. Let him sit in that quiet. Let him feel the absence of what he didn't protect. And while he's trying to figure it out, you live. You grow. You invest in your dreams, your body, your spirit, your joy, because the greatest power a woman has is not in holding onto a man, it's in holding onto herself. And the moment you truly believe, I am enough with or without you, you've already won. Now, ladies, here's the part most women don't fully grasp. Your silence isn't just about him. It's about you reclaiming your life. Every day you spend chasing after someone who doesn't chase you, you give away a piece of your soul. Every second you spend explaining, justifying, pleading your giving power to someone who doesn't deserve it. And the moment you stop, moment you finally say enough, is the moment your power starts coming home. You see, being silent doesn't mean you're passive. It doesn't mean you're weak. It means you are intentional. It means you are choosing where your energy goes. You're choosing yourself. And let me tell you, nothing in the world is more magnetic than a woman who has chosen herself first. There's something sacred about the space you create when you stop reaching out. It's a space where you get to hear your own thoughts without interruption, where you feel your own emotions without them being clouded by someone else's uncertainty. That silence is a healing chamber. That quiet is a sanctuary. That stillness is where you rebuild your confidence, your self-respect, and your joy. Because, ladies, so many of you have spent years bending, giving, accommodating, and shrinking to make room for someone else. And now it's time to take it back. And while you're reclaiming yourself, here's what happens on his side. He starts noticing the change. The subtle difference in energy that comes from a woman who is no longer chasing. He feels it. He can't ignore it. That quiet is an emptiness. It's presence in its purest form. And the most important thing, it's a presence that doesn't depend on him. When your silence starts working its magic, he begins to measure his actions differently. He starts thinking twice before disappearing, before ghosting, before taking your attention for granted. He begins to see that this woman he thought was always available, she's not. And that realization, that shakes him. That pushes him to either rise or leave. And either outcome is a victory for you. Because if he rises, it's proof that he values you. If he leaves, it's proof that he was never ready for the woman you are. And in both cases, you've won your freedom. You've stopped giving your energy away to someone who wasn't reciprocating. You've stopped lowering yourself to fit someone else's timeline. You've stopped allowing your life to be dictated by someone who doesn't understand the meaning of respect. And let me break it down even further. Silence teaches boundaries. Silence teaches him and yourself that your energy is sacred, that your time is valuable, that your love is a gift, not a commodity to be taken whenever convenient. Silence says, without a single word, I am a priority. And I refuse to settle for being an option. Think about it like this. When you're always available, you're like a river flowing endlessly into a dry well. The well takes and takes, never filling. While you give your life away piece by piece. But when you stop pouring, when you redirect that river back to yourself, suddenly the water has value again. Suddenly it's precious. Suddenly it's something worth noticing. That's exactly how your presence operates in a man's world. It's not by chasing him that he values you. It's by letting him feel your absence. By showing him that your energy is earned, not assumed. And don't get me wrong, this isn't about being cold or manipulative. It's about clarity, growth, and self-respect. Because too many women confuse love with effort. They think if they try harder, text more, and explain everything, they're proving themselves worthy. But that kind of love is unbalanced. True love, real respect, real partnership, it doesn't need constant proof. It doesn't need chasing. It doesn't need explanations. Your silence reveals the truth. It reveals who he really is. It shows you if he's consistent, if he's loyal, if he truly values you. It exposes those who are there for ego, for attention, for convenience. And it highlights the men who are willing to show up fully, even when it's uncomfortable, even when the spotlight isn't on them. Ladies, I need you to hear this loud and clear. Silence is power. Your ability to step back, to pause, to choose yourself over someone else's validation is one of the strongest things you can do, because it's not about punishment, it's about preservation. It's not about winning him back, it's about winning yourself. And when you do that, everything else falls into place. Let's talk about the freedom that comes with silence. Have you noticed how your anxiety decreases when you stop obsessing over whether he called, why he didn't text, or what he's thinking? That's because silence gives you mental space. It gives you room to breathe. It gives you the power to focus on your growth, your dreams, your goals, your joy. Instead of living on the roller coaster of his attention, you start living in your own rhythm, your own power, your own light. And trust me, a woman living in her own light is impossible to ignore. When you stop reaching out, you also teach yourself patience, resilience, and self-control. You realize you don't need immediate validation to feel worthy. You realize your happiness isn't tied to someone else's action. You realize that the love and respect you crave should never come at the expense of your peace. And that kind of lesson, that kind of growth, it's lifelong. It transforms you from the inside out. And here's something most women underestimate. Silence forces him to face reality. Because when you're always there, he never has to reflect. He never has to confront his mistakes. He never has to see what he's losing. But when you step back, when your energy is no longer at his disposal, the reflection appears. And men, by nature, don't like looking at their own flaws, they avoid it. But your absence forces it. And in that discomfort, if he's the right man, he will grow. He will rise to match the woman you are. But let's also be clear, some men won't rise. Some men will run. Some men will choose convenience over effort. And that's okay. That's part of the clarity your silence provides. Because you don't want a man who only values you when it's easy. You want a man who chooses you even when it's hard. Your silence reveals that. It separates the boys from the men. It separates the ego-driven from the heart-driven. And in the process, You reclaim your peace, your power, and your worth. This is where the magic happens, ladies. When you stand firm in your silence, you become unpredictable in the most beautiful way. You're no longer bending to meet expectations. You're no longer giving pieces of yourself just to fill gaps. You've stopped running, chasing, explaining, begging, and worrying. And suddenly you are magnetic. Because a woman who chooses herself first, she doesn't need anyone's approval to shine. She doesn't need anyone's attention to validate her existence. Her worth is inherent, undeniable, and radiant. And here's the final truth. The moment you stop reaching out, the moment you reclaim your power, you stop being a background character in someone else's story. You step into the main role of your own life. You stop bending your joy around someone else's inconsistency. You stop shrinking yourself to fill someone else's ego. You stand tall. You shine. You live. And the man who is meant for you will rise to meet that. The man who isn't, he'll disappear. And that's a victory too, because you've avoided wasting your energy on someone who doesn't deserve it. So let your silence speak. Let it heal. Let it empower. Let it reclaim everything that has been given away too easily. Stand in the quiet, and you will discover that you are enough, you are powerful, and you are complete with or without anyone else's validation. And when he notices, let him wonder. Let him feel the gap. Let him question what he's lost. But most importantly, while he's figuring himself out, you will have figured yourself out. You will have remembered who you were before the heartbreak, before the chasing, before the explanations. You will have returned to your power. You will have chosen you. And that, ladies, is the ultimate victory. Because silence is not empty, it's full of healing, full of clarity, full of power, full of self-respect, full of the unmistakable truth that you are. Worthy of love that doesn't come at the cost of your peace. Stand up in your life, walk in your power, speak with your silence, shine without permission. And from this day forward, let every unanswered text, every unreturned call, every quiet moment be a reminder not of your loneliness, but of your strength. Because in your silence, you are not losing. You are winning yourself back, piece by piece, until nothing and no one can take it from you again. Ladies, here's something you must understand. When you stop reaching out, you are no longer living in reaction to someone else's action. You are no longer letting another person dictate your emotions, your peace, or your worth. That is freedom. That is empowerment. That is the beginning of living life on your own terms. And let me tell you, nothing shakes a man more than a woman who has reclaimed her freedom. Think about it. When you're always there, always available, always answering his call. And texts, you are teaching him that he can take you for granted. That no matter how inconsistent he is, no matter how careless, no matter how distracted, you'll be there to fill the gap. And when you stop, when you step back, something changes. The energy shifts. Suddenly you are no longer predictable. Suddenly you are no longer a safety net. Suddenly, the woman he thought he understood becomes a mystery, a challenge. And men, by nature, are drawn to challenges. They are wired to pursue, to fight, to prove themselves worthy of what they cannot automatically have. And here's the beauty of it. You don't even have to speak. Your silence communicates more than words ever could. It says, I am not desperate. I am not dependent. I am not here to chase you. It says, I value myself too much to settle for anything less than respect and genuine effort. That silence, ladies, is a mirror. It reflects your worth back to you and shows him exactly where he stands. When you stop explaining yourself, when you stop justifying your emotions, when you stop sending message after message, you're no longer giving him power over your mind. You are no longer handing him the keys to your happiness. You are taking it back. Every time you resist the urge to chase, every time you pause instead of reacting, you are building your own kingdom brick by brick, piece by piece. And that kingdom, it doesn't crumble when he steps out of it. It thrives, whether he's there or not. Let me break this down for you even further. Silence does several things at once. It teaches him, it teaches you, and it reshapes the dynamics of the relationship. First, it teaches him that your energy is not free, that your love is not automatic, that your presence is a privilege, not a guarantee. And that lesson, men notice. They may not admit it. They may act casual. They may try to play it off. But deep down, something shifts. Your absence becomes a question mark. It becomes a space he wants to fill. And that space is a reflection of the respect he owes you. Second, silence teaches you about yourself. It shows you how much power you've been giving away. It reveals patterns you didn't see before. It shows you where you've been overgiving, over-explaining, overextending, and shrinking yourself to accommodate someone else's inconsistency. That awareness is priceless. That clarity is life-changing. Because once you see it, you cannot unsee it, and you will no longer allow any one man, situation, or circumstance to diminish your worth. Third, silence shifts the entire energy of the connection. When you step back, the man who was used to being served, who was used to comfort, who was used to attention without effort, suddenly has to step up or step aside. And that is how true character is revealed. That is how you see if someone is there for you because they genuinely care, or if they are only there because you made it easy for them. Now let me talk about something crucial, the discomfort of silence. Yes, it's scary at first. Yes, it feels heavy. Yes, your mind will try to trick you. It will whisper, maybe he's moved on. Maybe he doesn't care. Maybe this is the end. And you know what? That fear is exactly what makes this practice so powerful, because it's in that discomfort when your hands are itching to text, when your heart is screaming to reach out, that growth happens. That's the moment you learn patience. That's the moment you learn restraint. That's the moment you prove to yourself that your happiness does not depend on someone else's validation. Let me remind you, a woman who can master her silence can master her life. She doesn't react impulsively. She doesn't jump at every notification. She doesn't let someone else's inconsistency dictate her mood. She lives on her own terms. She protects her energy. She values herself. And that energy, that magnetic, radiant energy draws the right people toward her, not because she chases them, but because she stands unshakable in her worth. And here's another truth many women overlook. When a man feels your absence, when he feels the silence, his ego is tested. Men live in their ego. It's their armor, their sense of pride, their confidence. When you've been there to constantly validate, to constantly reassure, that armor stays intact. But the moment you stop, the moment you step back, that armor cracks. He feels a void he doesn't know how to fill. He feels uncertainty for the first time. And that is when a real man either rises to match the woman he wants or fades away. Do not rush to fill that silence. Let him wrestle with it. Let him face his reflection. Because if he can't step up without you guiding him, without you explaining, without you chasing, he's not the man you need. But if he does rise, if he does reflect, if he does show growth, he is a man worth your time and energy. And in both cases, your power is intact. Now, think about the respect that comes from silence. Men don't respect what they don't work for. They don't value what is constantly given. They respect challenge. They respect self-worth. They respect women who stand in their power. When you stop giving away your energy for free, when you stop chasing, when you stop over-explaining, you are forcing him to reassess how he treats you. And that reassessment, that is respect being born. And while all this is happening, your life continues, your growth continues, your joy continues. You don't pause your dreams to wait for him to realize what he has. You don't shrink your light to make him comfortable. You don't silence your power to keep him around. Instead, you live, you shine, you build, you rise. And that is irresistible. That is power. That is freedom. Silence also teaches self-love. Because the moment you stop running after validation, the moment you stop begging for attention, the moment you stop lowering your worth, you realize, I am enough. You don't need his text to feel complete. You don't need his calls to feel secure. You don't need his approval to feel confident. You are whole. You are powerful. You are radiant. And that truth is unshakable. And let's get real. Taking your power back isn't just about him noticing. It's about you noticing yourself. It's about looking in the mirror and saying, I am no longer giving my energy to someone who does not deserve it. I am choosing me. I am protecting my peace. I am reclaiming my life. And the more you do this, the easier it becomes, the more natural it becomes, and the more magnetic you become, because nothing attracts the right people like a woman who knows her worth and refuses to settle. Ladies, understand this: silence is not punishment. Silence is not manipulation. Silence is clarity. Silence is growth. Silence is power. Silence is how you protect your energy, how you teach respect, and how you reclaim your worth. And the best part, the results of silence go beyond just relationships. They spill into every area of your life. You become sharper. You become more intentional. You become a woman who knows her value and refuses to negotiate it. So from this moment on, let silence be your ally. Let it be your teacher. Let it heal your heart. Let it restore your power. Let it reveal who truly values you and who does not. And while he is wondering, while he is questioning, while he is trying to figure out what happened to the woman who was always there, you will be living. You will be thriving. You will be growing. You will be building your dreams, your joy, your confidence, your life.